Tottenham demolished against Atletico Madrid in the first leg of the round of 16 of the Champions League. It's fair to say that English clubs will want to stay well clear of Madrid after this week. Man City thumped against Real Madrid 3-0 and Tottenham thumped by Atletico. The damage done within 14 minutes. Kinski given his Champions League debut, one that he definitely will always, unfortunately, probably remember, but will want to forget if he can. But I've got a fantastic panel joining me tonight on this episode of the Scarfey Spurs podcast, an award-winning podcast. So thank you very much, as always, for your continued support and the channel as a whole, beating several top channels and creators, including Last Word on Spurs and Ben Bowman in the month of February. So thank you as always. But let's introduce the panel hosted by me, Harry Scarfe, Britain's best young football content creator in 2025. So thank you so much for making that possible. 3 guests on tonight and 3 fabulous ones. Firstly, Gary Ward. Gary, thank you so much for your time. Again, I keep bringing you on after defeat, so apologies about that. But how you doing away from Tottenham?
Well, we haven't won this year, so every show I'm doing is after a defeat. So it's become routine. Maybe it's me. Maybe I should stop doing these shows and we might win again. Let's see if I don't do something for a week and we win. It might be me, but I appreciate having me back and to dissect another loss and the shambles as is Tottenham Hotspur.
Oh, absolutely. That's a line that we can just carbon copy every single week, you know, literally robotic. Absolute shambles of Tottenham indeed. Gary, thank you very much. And if you're ever questioning the player's commitment, someone's commitment that can't be questioned is Dustin on the podcast, joining from 3 a.m. Yes, you heard that right, 3 a.m. as always as well in Singapore. He's done it throughout the season. And let me promise you that if Spurs somehow, unfortunately, do end up in the Championship, I have full confidence that he will still be here. Dustin, thank you very much. Apologies about the circumstances. How you doing, though?
Hola.
Is that it? Just hola. I love it. Right, we've got a lot to get into, so we will keep it short for now. And Joseph, thank you very much. It's been a little while. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I had a really good weekend last weekend, kind of switched off from Tottenham and then go into the week and Tottenham find a way to ruin it, as they always do. So, yeah, not too bad. But, I wish Tottenham Football Club didn't exist right now, to be honest.
You're not the only one that feels like that at the moment. It's very difficult times. We'll get straight into it. So for the game, as always, we get the lineup announced. So the lineup for those that haven't seen it or just need a little reminder, I'm probably one of those included. Kinski in goal, Van der Ven, Danso and Romero, Porro, Spence, Gray and Sarr, and then Tell, Richarlison and Mwani. So probably the main highlights of that, of course, Kinski getting his Champions League debut, Romero and Spence back into the side and Richarlison giving them a nod from the start. Gary, what do you think of the team when it was announced? I think the big shock is, without revealing too much, what we're going to get into later, but Vicario was dropped. We saw Kinski. I'm going to say it now. I think the feeling was a little bit of joy amongst the Spurs fans. I think a lot of surprise, but it felt right at the time to drop Vicario. What were your thoughts when the team was announced?
I'm happy he got a game, but I just think the timing or the place that you've put him in terms of a cauldron. I mean, it is an incredible atmosphere in Madrid, in Atletico Madrid. It's in the Champions League. It's in the last 16. The lad's played 3 times this season, twice maybe. That might have been his 3rd game. He's played 13 games in 14 months for us. It's a statement. It's a statement to from the interim manager. Yeah, it is a statement from him, and unfortunately, I think obviously he got it completely wrong. But I was happy that he was given he was going to be given a chance. I just felt that if you are going to give someone of 22 years of age that hasn't played much this season, it's probably better to do it in the home leg where we can kind of get behind him. It certainly surprised me that this was the game that he's chosen out of all of the quote-unquote lesser teams that we went with. I thought it was quite surprising. In terms of the rest of the team, we can go into that later, I'm sure, but I'm finding him frustrating with his setups at the moment.
Absolutely. For me, it absolutely reeks of someone that doesn't know his best team, doesn't know what he's got in front of him. And this is the type of situation you go, this is what pre-season is for, not when you're fighting a relegation battle at the latter stage, not knowing who you've got and if they're right or not. So really unideal times, I should say, not ideal at all. But Dustin, can I come to you? Because on this podcast in particular, and I think across all your socials as well, you've highlighted the lack of through balls played by Tottenham this season. When you looked at that midfield, Sarr and Gray, were you thinking, where's the creativity going to come from? These through balls, etc. How are we going to create chances? Because as much as I was happy with the team at the time, I looked at it and went, how are we going to create chances?
Yeah, I think we are suffering from the fact that we have Kulusevski and Madison out, and the only person that we have that plays through balls is Xavi, but he can't do it on his own. So if you want any kind of central ball progression, it has to be Xavi in combination with another creative midfield player. But then with Tudor, we have a coach that's very wedded to three at the back, and if you're three at the back, it means that you have an extra centre back there that's a creative player or person that could have been a creative player that is now occupying that space. So it's almost like I don't know where our through balls or chance creation comes from. It feels like we are still very wedded to crosses as opposed to trying to penetrate teams down the center. And I think that the biggest problem that Tudor has is just the way he misprofiles players. And profiling players is one of the most important things you can do well. When a coach profiles a player well, that's when you look at Gareth Bale and go, you're wasted as a left back. I'm going to bring you further up the pitch and eventually to the center. When you profile a player well, you basically put them in their best position. But Tudor is almost the opposite. He's putting like Porro as a right centre back, Gray as a right wing back and left wing back, Paulinia as a centre back in the back three, Gallagher on the right wing. So just the tactical inflexibility, being wedded to three at the back and just misprofiling players is not ideal when you have 12 games left to save your season.
Not ideal at all. That's for sure, especially with a little time left. You're absolutely right to say that. But Joseph, I come to you. It all kind of went wrong from the 5th minute, really, where we conceded 1-0 Atletico, from a mistake from Kinski. I mean, we know what that started, but when you go away to teams like Atletico, you can't be conceded, can you, within 5-6 minutes?
No, you can't. But let's be honest, I think it's what we've learned to expect from Tottenham this year. There's no solidity at the back. You don't trust the defense to keep things together and not concede an early goal, because we've done it so many times all season. And just one thing on the lineup in general, or just the system. We're playing a three at the back, and it feels like did we do any kind of scouting or really have any kind of idea of what was going to come at us against Atletico Madrid? They play with like 4 forwards in terms of Julian Alvarez, Antoine Griezmann, Ademola Lookman, and Simeone. Like, they've got 4 kind of forwards that kind of attack all together, and you're going up against 3 centre backs because the wing backs don't really seem to defend very well, with the centre back. So it just feels like the setup did not match what we were going to come up against. And again, like Dustin said, it feels like Tudor's kind of married to this formation and this system of a three at the back, but clearly these players are not suited for it right now. I mean, when he first came in, we'll go on to a conversation about the manager. I'll leave it for now. But I thought at first maybe the system itself would suit some of these players, but so far, since he's come in and implemented it, it has not at all. These players seem lost in this formation somewhat. So, yeah, I mean, the goals, that first goal, again, it's just, I mean, obviously there's a lot of a conversation around the pitch and the state of that pitch. And that's something that hasn't just been from Tottenham. It's been from other clubs as well. Barcelona have had issues with it. Other clubs have had issues with it. And you can see a lot of people slip in. And I think for Atletico Madrid, they're probably used to it. They're used to what that is. They're probably, understanding how the pitch is going to play. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a really, really rough start for Kinski. And it's such a shame because I think all of us were right behind him. I think a lot of Tottenham fans really wanted him to get a game because Vicario hasn't been performing well for the last couple of months, you could say, for a majority of the season, especially with his ball distribution. And I think people thought Kinski would come in and he would actually, give us that, because we when we've seen him previously, he has been quite good on the ball. But, Tuesday night, he looked completely, I think the first one happened and after that he just lost, his head was gone and he just wasn't really in the game after that moment, which was such a shame for him. But it can happen once and then it's how the team responds, and the problem is we didn't respond and we ended up falling further and further. Maybe that's due to the attitude and the confidence around the players. As soon as you concede one, their heads dropped. They're like, "Yeah, we've got no chance." I don't know, but again, it was the response from that point. That's what was kind of frustrating more than that one goal itself.
Absolutely, because mistakes are part of the game, aren't they? It's about how you react to that and how you respond. Joseph, thank you very much. And Gary, to fast track, within 15 minutes, we're 3-0 down away from home and in a really uncomfortable and difficult position. Not only that, but Kinski's made 2 direct mistakes that led to the goal, and Van der Ven's slip as well, which was a second goal in between. So within 15 minutes, 3 errors, 3 goals conceded, but in particular for Kinski, it couldn't have gone any worse, could it?
No, I felt for him, really. I really did. It's just a difficult position to put him in. The club and the situation's already quite low as it is anyway, to then come in, debut in the Champions League, and almost instantly there's a problem. After the first goal, I kept saying to myself, like, give him the ball. Like, from kickoff, I would have given him the ball back straight away, just so he can just feel the ball and move it again. And there was, he got it back maybe a couple of minutes after. And I was like, excellent, he's moved it. I think he put it out to his left. Perfect, he's going to be all right now. And then, it's a pretty poor pass back to him, to be fair. It's a difficult one for him to maneuver. And he's tried to, like, sort of scoop it with his left foot, isn't he, because he's panicking. And he just completely misses it. And I felt so sorry for him. And, the decision is right to have taken him off. He was clearly shot. Confidence was gone. However, the attitude of the manager or the interim in Tudor is just disrespectful. It's just ridiculous. You've come in to instill some confidence into a team, and to completely ignore your players, especially in the fact that it's his decision to have played him in such a difficult place to go, in such a important tie, really. It's his decision, and he couldn't even come out or even go over to him and put your arm around him as he's walking off. And the fact that all the players and even people on the bench had to do that, it just shows that the lack of man management that we have, not only at the top of the football club, but it's currently sitting on the bench.
Absolutely, fully agree with that, and get onto that in just a little bit. But Gary, thank you very much. Dustin, to bring you in on this, I mean, Kinski was taken off, as Gary said there, 2 minutes later in the 17th minute. Do you think it was the right decision? And listen, how can you call yourself a manager if you're not going to console a player that's in a difficult space? Why should it be down to the Dominic Solankis, the Conor Gallaghers, and everyone else that followed him down the tunnel? It just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right at all, does it?
I think it's a pretty difficult decision to make, because primarily one of the main reasons that Kinski didn't play well is just that he hasn't gotten minutes the entire season. And, ideally he would have gotten minutes in the Cups, but in the Cups we pulled Premier League opposition in literally our first games of both Cups, right? So if we had kinder draws, Kinski would have, played more games before this. But just that every game has been so high stakes that he has not gotten his minutes. And to get the very first, one of the first few minutes of his season, really. I mean, he hasn't played significant minutes the rest of the season. So to start in a knockout round of the Champions League is one of the highest pressure games that he could play on that pitch, which I think incidentally Barcelona had lots of problems on that pitch. In fact, Atletico players themselves have complained about that pitch. I think Griezmann is saying that as a team that wants to play the ball on the pitch, we can't be dealing with the way that it's slipping and sliding. It looks like everyone was on ice skates there. So he just was put into a difficult position. And Spurs being Spurs, we concede 4 goals in 25 minutes, I think 3 goals in 15. Whether he should have been taken off, at the point that he's already let in 3 goals, you could say that it destroys his confidence to take him off. But if you leave him on and he concedes 6, that's not any better. So, and the other part is that Tudor is on as an interim, right? He has no ambit to develop young players. So he's like, I thought Vicario was crap, but you're worse. And when you bring in a short-term manager, they have a short-term mindset. That's the reality of it. And while I agree that he could have at least done something, looked at Kinski, given him a cuddle or whatever, but at the same time, he's 3-0 down in what would be his 5th loss in a row. So he's probably got things on his mind, but he doesn't seem to be the cuddliest person anyway. He doesn't applaud the fans. He goes straight down the tunnel. So the demeanor of Tudor to begin with isn't a arm around the shoulder kind of person. It's I'm here, I'm the drill sergeant, this is the way things are going to go. And there are teams that it works with and there are teams that it doesn't. And it just looks like, he's just rubbed a lot of players the wrong way. Spence, making a big point of showing that in a public arena. So I think we'll get more into that later. But, it just seems that it's not been a good fit for the players and the situation and the kind of demeanor that he does as man management.
100%. Dustin, thank you very much. Joseph, I come to you. I'll pick up on a point that Dustin said originally in terms of like it's not ideal. He's hardly played. Do you think this is a prime example of someone that's been rotting really on the bench? Because a lot of reports in the last couple of weeks he was rotting away and he had retracted in training for a result of not playing. That looks exactly the case. Whether it's just a coincidence or not, I don't know. It looks exactly the case. Someone that hasn't played and ultimately rusty. That's what you get in football. So do you look at this and go, Kinski probably deserved the game based on how Vicario's been playing, but this is probably the wrong game, the wrong moment to do it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, we've all been calling for Kinski to get a game for months. It's not like it's just, suddenly started happening and Vicario's had a couple bad games. No, Vicario's had a run of games where we haven't been impressed with how he's played for a long time. And let's be honest, we could have seen Kinski start months ago, and I think nobody would have been questioning it. It's come at a bad, moment where Tottenham are literally in the worst state we've ever been in. Every kind of media outlet, every single eye is on the next Tottenham game to see what they're going to do. And Kinski's kind of been thrown into this moment where, are Tottenham going to get relegated? What's going to happen? Everything is negative, and he's kind of been thrown into this, into this moment to go and, try and help sort it out. And that's hard for a player who hasn't had any game time for such a long time. I didn't think it was the right game for him to start. But I think, overall, I don't think a lot of the fans can say it was completely the wrong choice, because I think all of us have been calling for it. All of us have been calling for Kinski to get a chance. He was given a chance. And to me, he was given a chance in a game that purely doesn't really matter. As much as I understand, the Champions League final 16, it's a big moment. We're not going to win the Champions League. I think every Tottenham fan could admit that that's not going to happen. Right now, the games that matter are the Premier League games. So if he was to go on the weekend and play against Liverpool and that happen, I'll be a lot more upset than it happening on Tuesday. Because for me, I'm not bothered about the Champions League. That's just me personally. I don't know how other Spurs fans feel about that, but to me, it doesn't matter. It's the thing that matters about staying in the Premier League. So in a way, again, it was kind of a game where he, for me, he could try something. Obviously, it would have been good to get a good result, maybe to give some confidence. But overall, I don't feel like this tie against Atletico Madrid matters. I just don't think it does. So yeah, it was a strange one. I thought it was definitely right to take him off. And I do echo what Dustin's saying. I didn't like that he didn't go over to Kinski and kind of, like give him something to show that, it's okay. These things happen, move on. But like Dustin said, he is here for a short time. He is here to get results out of this team. And he's not, this is what he is. He's not this kind of, manager that's going to put his arm around people. He's just going to try and get everything he can out of them. And it looks like this group of team, I think, is a bit soft. I think this group of players is a bit soft, and they're not going to appreciate that kind of hard talking, stern manager that's going to try and just get everything out of them. I think they need a manager that's going to be like, you'll be all right. You'll be okay. So, we'll talk about the manager because I've got a lot to say about the manager. We can talk about him, like a bit more soon.
I think it's more man management, isn't it? Really, man managing of the system, of the situation. There's no man management of the situation. You're brought in for a bump in results first. Performances don't matter at this stage. Let's be completely honest. Results do, because winning a game and then winning another game and winning another game becomes a habit. If you do the same thing over and over again, it's a habit, like losing. So we need to pick up a result to start building that habit. But equally, he's been brought in to bring the team together and put some confidence in them, some togetherness. And granted, he might not be a cuddle or a hands-on person, but it's a respect thing. And I don't think he's brought any
100%,
respect in
yeah.
that. I think he's come in going, he's come in like a substitute teacher, and not the fun substitute teacher that you used to look forward to coming in. He's come in the one where you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, not this bloke. I ain't doing what he's telling me. You know what I mean? And that's not the situation. You want that substitute teacher that goes, who wants to come and draw on the blackboard or whatever, or the whiteboard or whatever it is, just those, somebody that's going to make it a fun environment to be around. And he isn't that. And you can tell, I can see there's just no respect given to the players, and ultimately those aren't going to give it back. And that is man management. That is what being a manager is.
I do get that,
The
Gary.
personalities, isn't it? No, but I think you're right in what you're saying. But he has to understand what he's come into, but also the club need to have known who he is and what he's about, because you know him more than anyone. He ain't won a game for fucking nine games before he came in anyway. So why are we not doing a due diligence there either?
Yeah, and I think this goes back to the. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I think this goes back to the processes. I think this goes back to the process as well, right? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. So, one thing I'll just say to Gary, because I'll forget it otherwise. In terms of like the respect thing, I do agree, and I haven't been happy with his man management.
No.
But the one thing I'll say to it is, yes, there is an element of respect, but also there's an element of respect from the players to the club in general. There's a level of professionalism that we should see from the players that hasn't been there. Like, let's be honest, as much as they probably do need a bit of a push, they shouldn't need a push. They should realize we're in a relegation battle. Let's buck our own ideas up and try and get some results, because they haven't shown that for months. They shouldn't need one manager to come in and do that for them. And the fact that we're talking about that shows the level of this squad, the professionalism of this squad, because it's pitiful that they should need that when you're in a relegation battle and you're in a global club, a fan base that is massive, a club that should never be in this situation. There should be nothing that needs to get them up for games. Just their own self-respect should be able to get them up for games.
Professional pride, isn't it?
Yeah, and there is none of that, unfortunately. But you're right. I don't think it was the right match. Again, we'll talk about Tudor a bit more later. But there's a lot of issues. But I just think there's an element of professionalism that you expect from the team, and we haven't seen it.
Absolutely, definitely. And let's be clear, I think however we feel about where the blame lies or who shares the blame, I think we can all agree it's not just one problem. It might be a main problem. I certainly have my view, and I think a lot of people now, concerns after many years, but it doesn't just rest with one person. Let's just say it does stem, I think, a little bit further. It might be caused by that one person or one group, but definitely goes a little bit further. But I'll keep the Atletico talk brief, because I know we want to talk a lot about the manager. But on the Kinski situation, Tudor's comments baffled me after the game. He said, it happened, very rare thing in my coaching 15 years. I never do that. It was necessary to preserve the guy, to preserve the team. He said, incredible situation, nothing to comment, you will see. It was before the game the right choice to do in the moment, like we are. Pressure on Vicario, another competition. Tony is a very good goalkeeper. I talk about Kinski. So it was, for me, the right decision. After this, of course, it's easy to say it was not the right decision. I explained to Tony after speaking to him, and after that, he's the right guy and a good goalkeeper. Unfortunately, it happened in this big game, these mistakes. He goes on to say, lastly, that we started the game. It was too much for us. In this moment when we're fragile, we're weak. Even in the second half, it was almost 4-2, almost 4-2 with Richarlison. We tried to score a goal and then 4-2, and we conceded the goal. I think I just about understand what he's saying. But Gary, what do you make of that? For me, that tells me he's not taking responsibility for what he's saying, but I know that others may look at this differently.
Yeah, I guess I can see it that way as well. Yeah, I think so. I just think he's lost, actually. I just think he's completely lost. I think he's probably been sold up the hill. I think somebody's gone to him, all these players are coming back, we're going to be okay, blah, blah, blah. And he's probably been naive to have come in, and he's realizing what an absolute shit show, I guess, is what we're in at the moment.
In the words of Romero, he's been told a few lies.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think he probably has. It shows the first the first press conference was, oh, we're 100% going to be okay. And then the second press conference, well, defense is rubbish, midfield isn't very good, and we're not very good up front. So he's realised pretty quickly, but you're just not going to get anything out of players or individuals or human beings in any sense if you are berating them privately and then going out into a public forum and doing it there. I just feel like he's lost. Nothing about what he's done. There's not one thing I can tell you that I think he's improved in the month he's been here, and that is his job. His sole job to have come in was to steady the ship, was to get a bounce, was to get a performance, was to bring the club or bring the players together a little bit more. And he's done none of that. If anything, he's made it worse and made it fractured. I feel like he's lost. He doesn't understand the club, doesn't understand the players. And just saying, and I know it's quite small, but it annoyed me when he was doing it, so I'm going to say it. He was referring to him as that guy. He couldn't even say his name. He probably didn't even know his name.
He forgot it. He had a 5-10 second pause, and he was,
he was going, that guy, that guy, and it was like, it's just, it's an absolute mess. It's a mess, and I think he's a mess. He's a mess.
He is. And ultimately, I don't think we should be beating around the bush at anybody because he's been brought in to deliver results. Did any of us on this panel think we'll win 4 games? I'd say probably not. But I don't think any of us also, would have been happy with certainly didn't expect us to lose all 4 or concede 14 goals. Maybe be a better way to put it. Across 4 games, at the worst ever start of any manager.
It's also that, but it's also the decisions he's making. Like at Crystal Palace, me and Joseph went over this. At Crystal Palace, we're 8 or 9 minutes until half time, and he takes off 2 centre midfielders and then puts a striker at left wing back, and then moves a centre midfielder into the right. But it was just mind blowing. All he had to do is just tuck Archie Gray in at centre back, put fucking Pora at right back. Let's go 4-4-1 into. We've got 9 minutes, lads. Let's just conserve what we've got. Let's get through and make the change. I don't know what he's doing. The subs again yesterday just were baffling, or the Champions League on Tuesday, baffling. I just think he's completely lost. He's completely out of his depth. He's obviously not got his assistant with him. And sometimes I reckon the assistants are probably more important than the actual managers. I reckon they're the ones that know most of what's going on. And he's how he's still at this football club at 7:30 on a whatever day it is, because they'll roll into one now Thursday. I just cannot understand it. I'm absolutely shocked.
So you'd sack him, yeah?
I'd have left him in Madrid. And I know that sounds horrible, but I had said to him, well, you can come back on the plane with us, or we can fly you back to, I'm assuming he lives in Turin or in Italy. It's up to you. We can get you back either way. He wouldn't have got on that plane. Well, I'd have been nice, but I wouldn't have wanted him to come back on that plane. I wouldn't have appointed him in the first place, if I'm completely honest. I just think he's absolutely lost as a football coach.
Okay, let's get on to Eagle Tudor then, because Tottenham lost 5-2, and I don't think we need to speak about it anymore, because ultimately there were so many goals in the game, and Tottenham did draw at the second half, but ultimately that is absolutely for clutch at straws. In reality, Tottenham were thumped. Not the only team, not the only Premier League side, of course, to get thumped in Madrid, but still not a very good look at all. Piles of pressure on Eagle Tudor. Any manager that loses 4 out of 4 has to have pressure on them. Joseph, Tudor, it looks like he's going to get more time. The club have confirmed, they confirmed he's at least scheduled to take the media duties for Liverpool. In your eyes, does he deserve more time despite the car crash of the start it's been? Or do you think, hang on, why is this guy still here? He's clearly the wrong appointment.
Yeah, I can't understand what's the point of giving him more time. I can't sit here and say that this is all his fault, because the fact is he's come in, he's been here about a month. Is it even a month? I don't know what day he was appointed exactly, and this club is in such a mess. He was never going to turn everything around. But I said it when we got him, with Project Spurs on other podcasts. I said, because I'm a Juve fan, so I watch a lot of Juventus football, and that was where he was last manager. And I said that I don't think it's the right appointment. And obviously, everybody at the start of a managerial reign is going to look at the positives, going to see, well, he had that bounce with Juve, he had that bounce with Lazio, he did good things at those clubs. But I knew what he also did at those clubs. I saw the second season at Juventus, that was abysmal. I saw the final 6 games where they didn't score a goal. At Juve, those final 6 games, he didn't score a goal in 380 minutes, which was absolutely shocking, especially for such a big side. And I've seen his tactics, and they didn't wow me. They didn't impress me. And the one thing I would say as well is when he took over at Lazio and when he took over at Juventus, those 2 teams were underperforming in their respective league. But Juventus, they were still, even in that moment, they were still the 4th, 5th best team in the Serie A. And when you play against a team like Pisa, a team like Cremonese, a team like Hellas Verona, it's guaranteed wins because your team is so much better than the opposition. Now, for Tottenham, coming into Tottenham, let's be honest, we are not better. We're, in terms of actual quality on the pitch, I don't think we're much better than Forest, than Leeds, than Burnley, Wolves, especially with all these injuries. Our team is not as is on par with them, at least. It's not better than them. So we're going into all these games on a pretty much an even playing field, and with zero confidence in the team, with any kind of cohesion, any kind of attacking style of play, nothing to hold on to. So he's come into this. I don't think he realized how big this job was. I think, like Gary said, I think he was sold a bit of a dream that things would be really simple, and Tottenham is such a big club, we're going to be so much better than everyone else. The Premier League is so much more difficult than what the Serie A is in terms of the competitiveness. And he's been in the Serie A, he's managed there. He's never managed in the Premier League. He has no idea what the Premier League is and what it's about. And he's going to be thrown into this situation. So yes, I can't sit here and say he's not to blame, because he is, and he should not be the manager going forward. He should have been sacked, and it doesn't look like he's going to be, because Vinay and Johan Lang apparently want us to go down. So he should have been sacked, but the fact is right now, I can't completely just blame it on him. It's the fact of why did we appoint him? Because I knew it as a fan of Juve not to appoint him. So how did they not see it? These are supposed to be the people running the club, and they can't see that this manager does not fit Tottenham. It's just crazy to me. So
They found Paratici's black book with his name in it and thought, oh, he's in Paratici's book, so he must do it. He's got that.
This is the other thing as well. I know that this is kind of going off on a tangent, and I get that Paratici did do some good stuff for us. He wasn't this magic man. Like, he did not revolutionize the club and get us to this state where we're unbelievable. Pretty much all he did was sign players from the Serie A and get players from, just because he knew them in Italy. That's all he did. That's the only reason why we would have been linked with Igor Tudor, because he was Italian. He was in Italy at Juventus. So I don't know. The club's an absolute mess. It's just an absolute mess.
Paratici's specialty is essentially taking players from his former club to his new club, which he did with Fiorentina, right? he did it with Juventus. He left Juventus, came to Spurs, and I've got all these Juventus contacts, all these players that they don't want, you can have them. And then he did the same with Spurs to Fiorentina, right? So and what you know about Paratici is that he's dog shit at choosing managers, because he wanted us to get Gattuso in, he got Nuno in, and now he wants Tudor. Right, so whatever you,
I saw us linked with Thiago Motta. That would be an absolute.
Oh my god! Yeah. That yes, absolutely.
So bad. Sorry, carry on, Dustin. Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all good. Thank you very much, Dustin. If I can come to you before we get on to Enoch, the board, Vinay, Lang. I know you've got a piece to say on that. You warned me beforehand, so I'm totally aware. Don't worry. But the Daily Telegraph today report the Tottenham players have no faith whatsoever in Igor Tudor. How the hell is he still in the job if they have no faith?
Well, essentially, we used to have Daniel Levy that would fire managers too quickly, and now we've knee-jerked in the opposite direction, and we have people in charge that will be too passive to do anything until it's too late. And a big part of the problem we had, both with Kinski and with Tudor, is that we waited too long to sack Frank. So whoever we brought in, even if we brought in Allardyce, whoever you think the best emergency relegation manager is, he's got 12 games, of which Liverpool away and Chelsea away we never win, right? So we have hamstrung whoever our manager is to replace Frank with too little games to do something. And the same thing with Kinski is that we didn't play him until there were they're all crunch games already. So the passivity within the club about not changing things, because if we just wait a little longer, things will work out. It's magic thinking, right? It's not based in any fact or reason. It's just the idea that if we sit on our hands, maybe things will improve, and we just wait too long to do something. I mean, Levy was often the opposite. He would often make changes that were unnecessary, or sometimes make changes for the sake of making them, and they were bad changes. But this is the opposite. This is just letting things continue to happen to you because you're not sure what to do.
Okay, Dustin, thank you very much. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, so I know I'm going to regret bringing this up, right? But I'm going to say it anyway because I can't sit here and not say it if that makes sense. Would we have been safer to stick with Thomas Frank? And I know that's unpopular to say, but the reason I'm asking, and I'm not being difficult or anything like that, or going against the grain, in my view, we passed the window. Went past the opportunity to sack him. I think we're flirting with relegation, bringing in someone in February. Turgid at times under Frank. I'm not, I don't watch football with my eyes closed. I know that. But for me, it felt a huge risk. As bad as we were under Frank, you had opportunities to sack Frank, plenty, from probably the North London derby onwards. Around about Christmas time, so many opportunities that we didn't take. I just felt you wait until the end of the season. That's a lot safer thing to do than bring in someone with no Premier League experience whatsoever. In Igor Tudor's words after his second press conference, I've never been in this situation before. I don't think he's got any clue about Tottenham. He doesn't know what he's got, doesn't know their names, no idea. There's no connection at all from him to the players to him. No respect absolutely anywhere. So, Dustin, for you, I know that you, in the end, spoke vocally about ousting Thomas Frank. But looking back, should we have stuck with him after making the decision not to get rid of him earlier?
I think that there's a right time to make decisions, and if you wanted to sack Frank, sack him before the transfer window, get a new manager in with enough time to assess what's going on with the team, and then he can make the choices for who you get in the transfer window for the rest of the season. If the transfer window is closed, then, and you've still got Thomas Frank, you have the familiarity of Thomas Frank with the squad. You may not like what he's doing with it, but rather than dropping someone in, because right now when you drop someone after the transfer window is closed, you're saying that the squad is fine and you just need to do something better with the current squad. But that's not the case, because we had, 13 players injured at the point that the transfer window happened. We had 5 players that got injured, some of them long term during the transfer window, and didn't do anything with it. So the time to sack Frank would have been earlier enough, but now that you've gone past this period and you've chosen to go with a manager that doesn't know the league as well, you've just not left yourself enough games to do it. I don't think that staying with Frank would necessarily have helped, because he was still very wedded to the idea of spamming crosses, even when Porro was injured, even when Kudus went out, even when we didn't have strikers that could hit the ball. So I didn't see chance creation improving that much. There was a slight improvement at the point that he got sacked, but I think that the teams had all figured out how we were going to play, and I don't think that we would have gotten significantly better performances, although maybe we still would have done not as bad in the Champions League. But I don't see how we would have actually improved in the league.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. Fair enough. I just felt like everything was around just Thomas Frank. As bad as he was, I felt like people have completely forgot that Enoch and the board existed. That's all my point. And Joseph made an interesting point there. As bad as Tudor's been, he's right. What has he walked into? To tell you something, he hasn't walked into a mansion or, something that's really rosy. I think we all know that. That is my point with Frank. I think it was a similar situation. The counter to that is both Frank and Tudor for a short period, but even 4 games has had both Romero and Van der Ven available most of the time. Well, he actually has had Romero as he through a choice of his own through suspension, but certainly Frank had both centre backs. Someone would look at that and go, Ange didn't have that. But to divert for now away from Tudor, I'm sure it'll come back. I want to move on to Enoch and the board. Then we got into Van der Ven's rather concerning comments. Dustin, I will start with you. So I could ask you many things, but I know you're going to go on one. I'm going to set you up here anyway. So start with me, Vinay and Johan Lang. I mean, what would you do with them? Within reason, don't hold back. But honestly, what would you do with them at this point?
I think right now they're lame ducks because we know that Vinay, or rather, we have been told, and so I don't know whether this is true, but we've been told that Vinay and Lang wanted to stick with Frank, and they were overridden by the board, and it was the board, specifically I think Nick Boucher, that said get him gone, right? And we have heard reports that board members were already wanted Frank out from maybe November. The fact that the board has overridden the CEO and ostensibly sporting director is a bad sign. If you're going to override them, what are they still doing in the job, right? They are now lame ducks. So you're in a position now where even if the decision to let Frank go was correct, it's a bad process. The non-sporting people should not be telling the sporting people what to do, even if it is the right decision. A stop clock is right twice a day. Even if the board have made the correct decision, if we now start the norm of the board overrides the footballing people, what if we do hire competent footballing directors in the future? We have now this precedent where the Lewis family can decide what exactly are Nick Boucher's qualifications. Vivian Lewis's son-in-law, does that make him a football person, right? So even though I agree with the decision to get rid of Thomas Frank, I disagree with the fact that the board should be overriding football people. And, maybe the football people are bad, hire better ones, but don't make it a norm where you override them and then you leave them in the job. If you're overriding them, get rid of them, hire better people, but don't override them and then leave them in job because they're lame ducks and no one will respect them. And the lack of respect for people that are overriding is like no respect for Igor Tudor, because they know that he's going to be out of a job. They know he's on a short contract. It will be the same for the board that's being with a CEO and sporting director that everyone knows has been overridden by the board as well.
Dustin, thank you very much for kicking us off there. I do appreciate it. If you want to come back and chip in, that's absolutely fine. So I know you have got a lot to say, and that's fine. Gary, I'll come to you. I mean, where does the problem lie for you? Is it, it could be multiple things, of course, but ain't it, the board? Is it Vinay? Is it Lang? I mean, between them, they just need to bang their heads together and sort it out.
I think it's a deep-rooted issue. I think it starts with the ownership, starts with the leadership within the boardroom. I don't believe there is anyone with real leadership there for all these faults, and I don't want to sit here for the next 3 hours and talk about it. Daniel Levy wouldn't have stood for what's happening right now. I firmly believe that. However, I'm not in any way advocating that I wish he was still at the club or anything. I'm showing that from a leadership point of view. He was clearly in charge and the buck stopped with him. There ain't nobody on this podcast, on any podcast we're probably going to be on, or quite frankly, anyone watching it, that can tell me categorically who is running this football club, because we don't know. That's a huge issue. We knew that as I say, the stopgap was Daniel Levy. Now, I have no idea. I think, again, Vinay has been used as a front man, but he's making stupid and silly mistakes. Yang Lang is now being pushed into those. Both of them, I don't see anything historically that encourages me to think that they're going to take Tottenham onto the next level, or in fact get us back to where we were, especially Yang Lang. 28 days ago, he said on the appointment of Igor Tudor, he said, and I quote, "Igor brings clarity, intensity, and experience of stepping into challenging moments and produce an impact. Our objective is straightforward: to stabilise performances, maximise the quality within the squad, and compete strongly in the Premier League and the Champions League."
April Fools has come early.
4 games, 4 defeats, 14 goals conceded. Where is the clarity? And one player being taken off after 17 minutes, being ignored, another player being taken off as a substitute, then having to tap his manager on the back to get a handshake. Where is the clarity, intensity, and experience? That's just the decisions that they're making. We could go on for probably 2 or 3 hours on a podcast on decisions that are not working very well. Yesterday, the fan advisory board minutes coming out, and Vinay essentially just putting down the club in terms of loads of things that are going wrong. Well, I'm sorry, in January, you and Yang Lan, they gambled with the future of this football club. They gambled it, thinking that we didn't need to make any signings when everybody knew we did. We didn't need to make any signings for a second year of injury crisis when we all could see it. Those two individuals have gambled with the future of this football club. And at the moment, we are going to be a championship side. So for me, in my opinion, their jobs are hanging on by a thread. In fact, I wouldn't even be counting on them. If I owned this football club, they wouldn't be here next season. I'd use them now in the positions that I need them for. And get to the end of the season, they wouldn't be at this football club. They probably wouldn't even be here at the first place, to be fair. It comes down to the ownership. If the children and the son-in-law are serious Tottenham fans, we will know this in the summer because we will see real intent from them in terms of trying to rebuild this football club. If we are in the Premier League or by the actions when we're in the Championship. If they don't, and there's another excuse coming out, they're the same ownership as their dad's been for the last 25 years, who's clearly still involved, but he just can't be. Tottenham Hotspur, we need to do everything we can as a fan base, but Tottenham Hotspur need a new ownership. That is the one and only scenario that gets us out of what the situation we're in and takes us to the next level. Unfortunately, I don't know anybody with a spare £4 billion in their back pocket. If I did, I'd have asked them already to come and buy this club. But that's my opinion on it. I think they are completely out of their depth, as is the manager. And again, these are appointments that they're making and decisions they're making that are ultimately failing. And if any of us in any of our business was making huge categorical errors, we wouldn't be in a job, and that shouldn't not happen at a football club either.
Absolutely. Gary, thank you very much. Joseph, before we move on to which we won't speak about long, but we will briefly speak about managers that could come in to save Tottenham just to keep us up and also move on to Liverpool. Do you have anything to say? I'm sure you will, understandably, about whether it be Vinay, whether it be Lang, the board or owners, anything. Where does the blame lie for you? Because someone has to stand up and take responsibility. I get the feeling it's a collective responsibility that needs to be taken, but why are we in the situation we're in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of everybody in the club right now. It comes from the top. The fish rots from the head, and that comes from the Enoch and Joe Lewis and the Lewis family. So it definitely all comes from there. And it's clear that they don't know what they're doing. I think they hid behind Daniel Levy, and Daniel Levy was the one operating the club for so long. And even then, we weren't content with it, but it was going along a path. It was steady. And as soon as he's gone, and this isn't to give him any kind of credit, because personally, I still think Levy is also a catalyst to this. It's not like he disappeared and everything went crap. It's been slowly going this way for a long period of time. And he was a part of that. He was a part of this decline. But, right now, I have no faith in who's in charge of the club. I can't believe we even got Johan Langer, let alone, why he's still here. Because
that by Aston Villa for underperforming.
Exactly. He wasn't doing well at Aston Villa. They were happy to see the back of him. And so far, since he's been here, what has he really done for us? I can't really give him too much praise, because he seems like a glorified talent scout, a glorified, recruitment guy. And even then, he doesn't seem to do it very well. And then with Vinay, at first, I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt, because I think for a CEO, it's hard to see the change that a CEO wants to do in 6 months, in a year. I think sometimes you'd go, okay, a CEO, if he wants to make drastic change around the club, you've got to give him 2-3 years, and then you can see, has he made any changes? Has he made any improvements? But the fact is, under his tenureship, this has got drastically worrying and scary, and just in a position that Tottenham should never find themselves in. And part of that is due to his failings. I kind of thought, okay, if Tottenham stayed where they were and weren't really progressing too much, okay, fair enough, but we need to see that progress over time. Well, we've got worse since he's come in. And the fact is, right now, so far, in every decision he's made, it feels like he's made the wrong decision. And like Gary said, in anyone's job, if you're making these many mistakes, you're going to get fired. Like, he shouldn't be here. It's, I think people beat this whole Arsenal thing a bit too much. I don't think he's an Arsenal fan and he wants to see Tottenham fail. He's here to try and do his job, but I just don't think he's doing a good enough job. And the fact is, Tottenham is crumbling as we're watching it as fans. It's heartbreaking to see. And we need a complete revamp of everything. We need new players. We need a new manager. But like Gary said, we need new owners, and we need the footballing people who are in charge to be the right people, to be ones that are established in the game, to be ones that have a proven track record of doing the right things for big clubs. They're the people that should be running Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Like, if we're all sitting here being honest, Tottenham could easily be top 5 in the world in terms of clubs, and with the revenue they make, with everything going on around the club, with the stadium, the infrastructure, everything. Tottenham have the chance of being one of the most successful clubs in the world over the next 15, 20 years. That's only going to happen if you have the right people in charge, the right people willing to put the money forward to get Tottenham there, because you can generate it, but you've got to be willing to put it in there as well. So it's just such a shame to see the club falling flat when there's such an opportunity for it to be so, we could be so happy as Tottenham fans, but we're not going to have that opportunity with the people in charge.
And where's all that money going? I mean, the North London Derby created, I think it was like 4.2 million. Where's that gone?
Debt.
Where is it going?
Debt.
Yeah.
We're in massive debt. Huge debt.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. That's just a frustrating thing. I'll give my thoughts quickly in 30 seconds or less because of the time. I view it as it's a falling tower or a sinking ship at Tottenham caused by Enoch and caused by the board. And you've got Igor Tudor that's come in. He's just the ship is sinking. He's just increased the acceleration of it. He's put the handbrake, kind of accelerated, let's just say, or, he's increasing the rate at which the building's fallen. That's the way that I view it at the moment. And of course, and again, if we zoom out a little bit, that fall was increased by Vinay, it's been increased by Johan Lang, and it massively increased after the January window. I'd go as far as saying, I've said it 3 times now, since the window, I'll say it for the 4th time, I think probably more even. I'll go as far as saying they have blood on their hands for the neglect of the January transfer window. If you see something in life away from football failing in front of you, it's like someone, you're seeing someone falling over in front of you and you look them in the eye and walked on past. I mean, that should stick with you as guilt for an awfully long time. That's the way that I view it. They've seen something. We all knew what was there and they've completely walked past it, ignorant at the very best. And that for me is blood on the hands. I think this has got to be as strong as that. It's neglect, pure and utter negligence. But
our coaches seem to be so fond of marine analogies, so you can keep blaming the ship captains and the crew for the ship taking water, but it's the owners of the ship that continue to stick sheet metal on the gaping holes in the hull rather than doing a proper overhaul before setting sail.
Well, there's going to be no ship if we keep going, let me tell you that, so we won't even have to worry about that analogy. But before we get on to Liverpool, we've got to discuss very briefly who comes in, because it's all right for us to sit here and go, we don't want Igor Tudor here. And I think it's incredibly difficult, I will say, to find names that come in right now. You hear a lot of, Tim Sherwood or Harry Redknapp. Are they still up to the job, particularly at Harry Redknapp's age? Gary, I'll start with you and keep this short, so about 30 seconds an answer, if okay. Who for you would you like to see come in? I mean, you've been vocal, I think rightly so, if I may say, that Tudor should be ousted. Who would you bring in? You're on mute.
I was doing so well as well. I want Mauricio Pochettino back at the club. He's not going to come back now, so it needs to be an interim. It needs to be an interim that is connected to the club. So somebody that has been here. For me, I'd have a combination or all of Ryan Mason, Glenn Hoddle, and Jermaine Defoe. I'd have all 3 of them.
Love it. It's got to be someone after me that gets that situation at the club.
Oh, sorry, and Chris Hughton. Sorry, that was the 4th person.
Okay, that's a good shout. Really good shout, Gary. Thank you very much. I think a lot of people agree with that. Dustin, who comes in for you, or who do you want to come in?
Originally, I said Redknapp, and the point was that a lot of people he hasn't coached for a decade, and he doesn't know. But it's really not about tactics at this point. It's about man management, and a lot of people why would anyone respect Redknapp? Because he can talk about having managed Modric, Bale, not Bale, but Modric and Van der Vaart in the Champions League.
He had Bale.
And he has Champions League experience as well. So a lot of it is when you try to get the players around on side, how many managers do we have right now that will come as an interim that actually have the pedigree of being able to say, I've managed in the Champions League and I've managed these players that you all know. So that to me is the fact that he's old, to me, doesn't really matter. Right now, it's not about tactics. It's not about being up to date. A lot of it is about man management at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Joseph, before we get on to a very quick Liverpool preview, for you, who's got to come in?
Yeah, I'd agree with the guys. I think, you know, those kind of four names in terms of Hoddle, Defoe, you know, just having a collective of people that get the club, I think makes sense. You know, Ryan Mason, you know, people that know what it means to play for Tottenham, and they see the club as the best place you can be. Because I think one thing you've got is you've got a group of players that don't really care as well. I'm not convinced that there's many players playing for us right now that genuinely think it's an honour to play for Tottenham. I think there's a lot of players that are kind of just here getting a paycheck and are content with the idea that, you know, that Tottenham will go down and they'll move on. So yeah, it's but even then, I'm not convinced that there's going to be much that's going to change the fate of Tottenham right now. I don't see the players getting up for any of these games. I don't see them getting results. You know, I think we'll lose against Liverpool. I mean, we'll get onto that, but I think we'll lose against Liverpool. I think we'll lose to Forest. I don't see us getting any results anytime soon. So yeah, I don't have really any hope that anyone who comes in is going to make a change. But it's also the fact I don't think I have any hope that they'll actually sack Igor Tudor in time to have any kind of impact either.
And I think to add to this, right, I think the reason that we're all saying it has to be someone with Spurs DNA is because right now the momentum that's building against us is everyone wanting to banter us. Is the inverse of the Leicester season. Everyone wants to relegate us. And the reason you need a coach in with Spurs DNA is that you have to have someone that's been in the position, that knows how Spurs gets bantered, to turn this around for the players, which is like, all of these teams want to relegate us. Are you going to let them do that? And it needs to be someone that understands that.
There's also that we don't have any Spurs DNA on the bench or in the club really, and in terms of playing staff either. So I think that's a big element to it. And as all of us love people that play for the club and want to be a part of that. Glenn Hoddle, for me, coming in can galvanise some respect from those players. You got Ryan Mason, that is a current coach and a manager that can put the formations together. You can listen to Glenn's insight. You've got Jermaine Defoe that they all will know and respect being around the club. Chrissy Houghton's been there, done it everywhere, international level. The combination of all four, for me, just makes so much sense. I really hope, personally, I'm almost certain it will be Ryan Mason. Wink, wink. But I hope it is some other people that are in and around with him as well. Even Ledley King, you know, just people that just love this club as much as we do. And we just, like you've both said, we need them to go in and just get some togetherness. We don't worry about tactics. Put them in a 4-2-3-1. They've all played it multiple times. Just default formation, square pegs and square holes. Get some confidence. Get one win, and we'll be okay. And with that, I bid you adieu.
No worries, Gary. Thank you very much for coming on. All right, I know you've got your own show, so thank you for your time. No problem. Thank you. Have a good one. Gary's going to jump now, and we're going to continue for a little bit. Thank you to Gary very, very much for that. So, just briefly before we get into Liverpool, so it's Archie Gray's 20th birthday today. Joseph, do you think he's shown more balls, more guts, and ultimately more quality and leadership too than, you know, the senior members of this squad? He seems to be standing up in a time of desperation, probably one of the only ones, if not the only one. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, he shows the energy that we expect from every player putting on a Tottenham shirt. He shows the attitude that we should expect from, especially the senior players, but again, every player that plays for Tottenham. And again, for him, it might not be about Tottenham itself. It might not be about playing for Tottenham, but it might just be about self-respect and about not wanting to get relegated with a club that should never be relegated. You know, he set an example, and we're seeing the senior players like Romero, like Van der Ven, who I've been quite disappointed with for a long time this season. all the senior players, really, they have not shown the attitude that you expect from players that are in this situation. And it's a real shame that, a 20-year-old kid is the one that's giving us that, and that he should almost be the one leading this team. It just shows the attitude and the energy around Tottenham. And the thing is, Tottenham have always been this club. I think it's wrong of us to say, as much as I know everyone talks about the big six and Tottenham being a big club, have we ever been a really big club if you truly think about it? The way players come into this club, I don't think they ever expect to win. I don't think they ever expect to do anything special with their careers. I think they're ready to move on. It's a stepping stone to get to the clubs where they will have those career wins. They will have those trophies. And that's what we've seen for a long, long time. And I think all the players at the club right now are treating Tottenham the same way. They're here to try and, get a paycheck, to get paid handsomely for what they do, and to not really care about what happens to Tottenham at the end of the day. Because after a while, if they are good enough, if they are the players they think they are, which they aren't, they will get a move to Real Madrid. They'll get a move to Barcelona. They'll go to the top teams in each of these countries, and they'll forget they were ever at Spurs. A lot of these players, after they move on from Tottenham, they don't care about Tottenham anymore. And that's it's a shame. But if we talk about some of those legends, other than maybe Glenn Hoddle, there's not many of those legends that were completely and utterly world-class top players that went on won loads and loads of trophies, because those are the players that stay with Tottenham, because Tottenham aren't this massive club. We just aren't. And it's sad, but we need to find players, and this is why the youth academy matters for Spurs so much. This is why getting players in young and hoping they develop at Spurs matters so much, because most players don't care about Tottenham that we sign. A lot of these players just don't care enough about Spurs. And for me, when I look at the team that plays for us now, I really don't, Romero, Van der Ven, they'll be gone as soon as they get a chance. Pedro Porro, I mean, he's shown some kind of passion and he seems to kind of be there and fight for it. But
he said he's a Tottenham fan and he's upset by the situation.
Yeah, but again, there's a lot of players that I just most of the team in general, I don't think they care. They care that Tottenham are going to get relegated.
They can influence it. They're the ones, aren't they? As much as Tudor's probably a problem and all these people.
And this is the thing I've been saying. As much as Igor Tudor can come in, and this is what I mean. As much as Harry Redknapp and Glenn Hoddle or whoever the next manager is, Ryan Mason comes in, ultimately they don't have a choice on what's going to happen. It's about the players actually giving a shit. That's what's going to change. And there's no reason why these players should not be giving more than they are right now. Like, why are they struggling so much? It can't be that they need one manager to come in and give them confidence. They should realize, like, we are getting paid thousands of pounds to play football. It's a dream. You're living every fan's dream. You're getting paid to play football. And you're playing for one of the biggest teams in England in terms of fan base, in terms of, their reach and even their financial backing, but you can't get out, you can't galvanize yourself to get out of a relegation battle. Like, that shows the type of players we're employing, and that's such a shame, because if it was any of us, we would die for our team. We would die for our club.
Tackles, yeah.
None of them care. None of them do care. So I just don't think anyone's going to get Tottenham out of this situation, and it's such a, again, I know I'm quite pessimistic, and the thing is, obviously I haven't been here for a while, and I've said I think Tottenham are going to get relegated for a while now, for quite a long time. And until, I think before the Palace game, I was kind of thinking, you know what? Part of me is still kind of feeling like, yeah, we can get out of this. We've got good enough players. We can get out of this. But my heart dropped when I saw that Palace game, because I was like, we're not getting out of this. We're not going to get out of this. It doesn't matter what happens now. I don't think anything's going to change the fact that I think we're going to get relegated, because the players are the ones that don't show me any kind of hope that we've got a chance of getting out of it. You look at West Ham and Forest, even Wolves and Burnley, who are pretty much already relegated. They're all together. They're working together. They're going, you know what? No, we have pride. We have togetherness. We have cohesion.
Everyone's got something about them. They're showing up, and but you've got to be united, haven't you, Joseph? At this stage of the season, you can't be not knowing your best team. You can't be divided and having this sort of infighting. And like Van der Ven, which I want to get onto in just a second, if that's all right. Talks about a lot of problems in the dressing room. It's really, really concerning. I think it's so concerning.
Yeah.
But
there's so many issues, but
I think a big part of it. I think a big part of it is that like we have the way the club has dealt with players has also set a norm for being transactional, where you know we have repeatedly sacked managers in some of the worst ways possible. We sacked Yall at halftime, right? And then we sacked Poch after all he did, going multiple seasons without a season without signings, going to Wembley and then coming back. And the first blip that he got, he was out the door, right? Ange won the trophy, sacked him like within 3 weeks. So players look at that and go, this is how the club treats people. They look at how, Harry Kane had a gentleman's agreement, but then they held him to it and kept him for as long as they could, right? So I think that the player sees the way the club deals with them and goes, well, what kind of loyalty do you expect from me if that's the way they're going to deal with us? So I think that the club sets the norm, and as fans we don't accept that, but the players don't deal with the fans as much as they deal with the club and the hierarchy and how they deal with them, and I think that sets the norm for these interactions as well.
Okay,
I get that, Dustin. Wait, one thing on it. I get that, Dustin, but that is just football. Like, I know the transactional thing, that is football. That is what football always has been, always will be. There's players that will go to Real Madrid that will last a season and get sold because they're not good enough, So maybe I can understand like an attitude point of view where it seeps down. The fact that, one of the things that I was listening to earlier about how Levy gave out watches for making the Champions League final. Like, that's the kind of, atmosphere, that's the kind of energy that you give out. You're going to get that in the players you have and everything like that. So I understand that, but again, I just feel like, I don't know if players have maybe it's just the global view on Tottenham, that Tottenham is a bit of a laughing stock and we're not this great club. Maybe that is what players feel. It just doesn't feel like players feel honoured to play for Tottenham. Because again, I think a lot of us fans, I know we love Spurs, but I would, bleed, I would die for my team. I would do everything I can to get 3 points. And it doesn't feel like these players give a shit about what happens to Tottenham. And the fact is, I think we'll see that if Igor Tudor does go, which I think he will eventually. I think he will go if after this Liverpool game, because I don't expect a result. I think he will go. I don't see why they're not getting rid of him now, but I think he will get sacked because I don't think he's going to pick up any results. And then they'll get in someone that knows the club. They'll probably get in Ryan Mason. I don't think much is going to change. I think we're going to be exactly the same spot as we are right now.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Joseph. Said a lot of really interesting things there, and I think you speak for a lot of people as well when you say that. Thank you very much. Good to hear. So, well, let's say good to hear. Bad to hear about the situation that we've got, but good to hear your honesty, and it's quite refreshing during these times. But just want to read out a few comments coming into us live for those listening on YouTube, and then we're going to get on to Van der Ven's comments very quickly, and then a quick Liverpool preview, just thoughts and score predictions. So let's go through some comments. Spurs diehard say, good evening, Harry, the panel, etc. Ben says, Tudor is a bum, hired by bums. And I've got a question here, which we'll very, very, very quickly respond to. It says, when you fall off a horse, it's said to get back up as soon as possible. Should Kinski start Atletico at home? Dustin, I'll give this to you. Ideally, yes or no, and if you want to give a short answer, why?
What do we have to lose? And even if we lose, we free up the cycles for the Premier League.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nice short answer there. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. Thank you for the comments, Spurs diehards. Who disagrees with me, says Thomas Frank, was awful. Again, I absolutely acknowledge it was a difficult period. I just think it 10 times worse now, on my honest view. Lewis says, right now it's Redknapp, Hoddle and Defoe. It's got to be for me. We are Spurs TV. Regular here says, I don't want to see Kinski in another game. We're sentimental to these players. Aussie Ange says, evening, we're turning this around. We are getting 40 points. Wow. And we'll come back against Atletico. Love this. We are Spurs TV goes on to say, when Kevin De Bruyne was past his prime, Pep sold him. We re-signed Ben Davies. That's the difference between a top team and us. Goes on to say, we need Ange back to save us. Comment here, Gundogan as well got shipped out when he wasn't Premier League level anymore. Where Spurs TV goes on to say, as we were 17th in the league, if Ange won the trophy and finished in the top 10, he wouldn't have lost his job. That is so true. That is ultimately, some would argue, Levy's Tottenham, ultimately league position prioritised over trophy. Where Spurs TV lastly says, some fans act really perplexed as to why Ange got fired. It was because he didn't finish in the top 10 in the league as well as win the trophy. Is not some big mystery to me. Me neither. It doesn't mean that we should agree with that decision. Van der Ven's comments then. You would have seen quotes more than likely taken out of context. I don't think that's fair. It's not fair on Van der Ven. It's not fair on any Spurs fan. We need to see the full picture, and that's what I'm about here. So I'm going to read out the full quote. It is long. Bear with me. He said, this is the words of Van der Ven, to be clear, after the Atletico defeat, first leg. He said it's actually a doomsday scenario. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. For our goalkeeper, it's terrible, of course. You don't wish that on anyone. For 15 minutes, we just conceded goals that you can't really do anything about. Right now, we're just taking blow after blow after blow. It's just really tough. And now we also have an important match this weekend that I won't be able to play in because I'm suspended. It's a really terrible period. I can tell you that. It's really, really awful. I'm not on my phone anymore. I'm completely done with it. It's really, really rough. I have to keep going. It's part of it. That's life. And we'll see what's coming. Joseph, some pretty damning comments there. I think our fears have come true potentially, that the feeling inside the dressing room isn't just bad. It's really, really bad.
Yeah, again, it sounds like they're defeated. Sounds like they have no hope, they have no faith, and they have no belief in themselves to get out of this. It's not very fighting talk, which is, I understand they've kind of been putting on a brave face sometimes in these interviews, saying, we go again, we keep going, we keep fighting. That sounded like he's gone, I've given up. Nothing's gonna happen now. And that's a shame when you've still got, around 10 games left of the season. What is it? I think it's 10 Premier League games, 11 Premier League games left. You think there is still a chance you can survive. We are not in the relegation zone technically now, but when you see that kind of attitude from the player, you kind of think, well, if that's how you're feeling, how are we going to get out of this situation? So, I understand that it's a lot for him as well. I mean, I was listening to a podcast earlier, and I'm surprised players even have social media accounts. I don't see what the benefit of it would be, because all you're going to do is get hatred. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, even if you're playing well, you're going to get people who are going to send you hate. You're going to get people who are going to give you that kind of grief. It's not worth it for a professional sports person. But, staying on your phone, staying off your phone, doesn't matter. It's about the internal feeling. And the fact is, the internal feeling, I think, is as low as how the fans feel right now. So it's really worrying. But the one thing I would say as well is that, let's be honest, Van der Ven, you've been really disappointing this season. For me personally anyway, I've been really disappointed with how he's played. I don't think he's this unbelievable defender that maybe we hype him up to be sometimes. I understand his recovery speed is unbelievable, and his athletic kind of, prowess is really impressive. But sometimes positioning is really poor. That's the reason why he needs to do that recovery kind of runs all the time. I think his heading ability and his defensive ability isn't always great compared to, what you expect from players. So, I don't think he's this unbelievably world-class, completely out of this stratosphere defender. And again, for him, I think he's, I don't think he'll be that bothered if Tottenham get relegated. Yeah, he won't be happy about it, but he'll just move on. He'll go to another club and he'll be fine. And, the fact is, in an important moments in games, he's now, also caused issues. Like, he's supposed to be the captain, and against Palace, I thought that challenge was stupid. I thought it was a really idiotic move to make that challenge. Let him
shoot. Could be saved. It's unlikely, but you never know.
If he scores that goal, it's 1-1. The game continues. But once he does that, it's 10 men and it's a penalty, and there's so much left of the game.
2 changes, and you can see at one point the players look at each other and go, hang on, I think they're saying anyway, 100%. Where am I meant to be? Yeah. I have no doubt that we only imploded because of that Van der Ven decision, and only because of Tudor's substitution. Simple as that, and the momentum change. I think Tudor made it 10 times worse. I think if Tudor does nothing, it's probably 1-1 or 2-1, not 3-1.
100%, and I do get that. I think Igor Tudor made a mistake, but the fact is, as soon as that red card and penalty, I was switched off. I knew we were going to lose the game. And I think everyone in the stadium knew that. I think the players knew that. The players had no faith.
We get something that goes against us.
Yeah.
We're defeated, right?
And that's the thing. And that's the same thing that happened with Atletico Madrid. It's the same thing that happened. We went 1-0 down in 5 minutes, and the players just went, it's done.
Well,
Without
even
just
later on
going,
in the game, Joseph, Richarlison didn't take his chance. Not only do we go and concede down the other end, I get that's totally gut wrenching. Same happened to Chelsea, funny enough, with PSG. Not only do they also lose by 3, but you also saw they nearly scored through Palmer, and if that's going straight down the other end. But for us, it's about how we respond to that. And from that moment, any threat we had just went. I know the game's over at 5-2, but we looked awful after that, and those final
yeah,
stages were a drag. That again, that's about the bad moments. But
it's just the
Joseph, thank
fact
you
that
for
like.
Mm.
It's just the fact that, you know, especially with that Palace game, you know, and Van de Ven, in that moment, he's the captain. He's the one where he needs to be the one to kind of give the team calm. We're 1-0 up, which is the first time I feel like we've been in the lead in a game in such a long time. And it's thinking, okay, well, look, Palace have been all over us. We're lucky to probably be 1-0 up. Let's stay steady. Let's stay calm. If they get a goal back, okay, it's 1-1. The game's still there to win. It's 11v11. But as soon as he got that red card, the game was over. And let's be honest, he 100% should have got sent off against Atletico Madrid. That was an absolutely awful challenge. He should have been sent off in that. And the game could have been even worse. So he's making poor decisions. He hasn't been great this season. And yeah, he might think, I think a lot of these players think they are above the club. They think they're better than Tottenham. You're not. We're in a relegation battle because of all of you together. It's not on the fans. It's not our fault that we're in this position.
They've been there every game, the fans. Whatever we've said, and I liked Frank, but even some things he said were idiotic, really, because the fans were always there, right? And I have my own concerns about the home atmosphere. But when they've been needed, they've been there. The players certainly haven't.
Exactly.
The manager certainly hasn't delivered. The owners haven't delivered. The board haven't delivered. The fans have. Let's be clear about that.
So yeah, so it's just completely and utterly like they're lost. All the players are lost. They have no idea what to do. And it's tough. We don't know how things are going to get better because I don't believe that anything is going to be able to make it better. The only chance you have is, probably getting rid of Tudor and bringing someone else in. But I still don't think that's going to give them a lot because we need a result. We need a win. I think that's the only thing that is genuinely going to get these players out of these depths of despair. I mean, what's it, 7 losses in a row now? 8 losses in a row? I don't even know. Like, they are completely and utterly down.
I think it's 6 in a row, but again, that's the first time I think it's happened, and you have to go back to
First time in our history. 6 in a row, first time in our history.
So first time in our history, 6 in a row defeats, and first time, well, the worst start to any manager at Tottenham. 4 defeats out of 4, and we have to go back to the 6th of December for the last home win. We haven't won a game at all, home or away, in the Premier League in 2026. It's an absolute car crash where you look at it. But Joseph, thank you. Liverpool preview then to end. Dustin, another game, it goes round again. The attention returns to the Premier League, where ultimately the full focus is probably going to be there and should be there. Can I get your quick thoughts and score prediction for our trip to Anfield? Because Liverpool aren't the team they were last season or have been in the last few years. And they're certainly not the same team at home at Anfield. I would argue there's no press. There's just no urgency. So this is a good time to play Liverpool. They don't look perfect.
Liverpool are in bad form, but there's no one taking the title of the worst form in the league from us, unfortunately. So it's really a question of like, we're in bad form, Liverpool is in bad form. Unfortunately, when things like that happen, Dr. Tottenham will see you now. So it's a good time to play Liverpool, but it's a great time to play us, unfortunately. So I don't really see a way out of it. And it's Liverpool away. It's a Liverpool away, right? So Liverpool away and Chelsea away are two ties that we take decades before we win there. And this is one of the worst Spurs teams in history. So I don't see us going to one of our bogey teams in a bogey stadium and getting a result with a manager that has seemingly lost the dressing room.
Okay, thank you very much. Did you slip in a score prediction there?
3-1 Liverpool.
3-1 Liverpool. Okay, thank you very much. Big up to Robbie who says hi, Harry, and the panelists. Get your score prediction, Robbie, and any other people listening. Joseph, can I get your thoughts on honest score prediction? I know it's difficult going into every game for Spurs right now, and I'm not even going to ask you the usual customary questions. Are you confident? How do you feel about it? Because I think we all know we'll feel similar way. I don't think any of us sit here and think that we will win. Let's just say against Liverpool. I could be totally wrong on that. If I am, please say. But can I get deep down your thoughts going into it? I know that again, it's probably going to be from a negative point of view, but mainly your score prediction, how you think it's going to unfold.
5-1 Liverpool. I have no faith that Tottenham have got anything to do with this game. I mean, I don't know what's happening with. I imagine Van de Ven and Paulinho are both going to be out with concussion. You know, when it rains, it pours. I feel like anything that can go wrong goes wrong. And in the last minute of a game against Atletico Madrid, they go bundling into each other and knock each other out, which was great. So, yeah, I think 5-1. I don't have any faith. I understand that Liverpool haven't been good, but they've got quality in their team. They've got so much more quality than we have. And when they want to score a goal, they've got the players that can do it. Ekitike could easily go and score a hat-trick. Salah is still Mo Salah. Szoboszlai, unbelievable. You know, I don't know if Florian Wirtz is back, but if he is, I'm sure he'll get on the score sheet. I just have zero faith that we've got any chance. I'm not going to watch the game. I'm not going to watch it. And I know that's crazy. Like I'm on a lot of Spurs podcasts, and I'm not going to watch Tottenham, but I don't want to. It's depressing. It's depressing to watch Tottenham right now. I don't want to watch it, so I'm not going to.
Joseph, my response to seeing the concussion at the end of the game was like, yeah, they might miss games due to the concussion protocol, but Johan Lang is the one that brain damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Tudor didn't really want to ask after the game. He was like, you know, one of those typical moments was his response, and he didn't even check on. Well, he didn't seem to check on either of the players. I mean, he'd say he did, but because he kind of had a look, but certainly no handshake or anything like that. So ice cold from Igor Tudor, and that ends this episode. With a therapy session, but we covered a lot in this episode of the Scarfey Spurs podcast. A reminder, a podcast always without toxicity, always without an agenda, any bias at all. So thank you very much to everyone that's listened, to watch, get involved. You can after as well. If you didn't listen live on YouTube, whether it be via audio platforms or YouTube, you can leave a comment. Comments function's always on. Drop me an email, if not, scarfharry323@gmail.com, or just a DM at harryscarfe32 or at Scarfey Spurs podcast on any socials. We and I would love to hear from you. Let's go through and see if you can find my guests on social media. Gary Ward earlier had to jump for his own show. We thank him very much for coming on, and you can follow him at Gary R. Ward. Joseph, thank you very much. Great to have you back. It's been a little while. If I had to say, I would say it's the first one of 2026. I could be completely wrong with that. Where can people follow you on the socials?
Yeah, it has been a long time. I think I've been here in 2026, but to be honest, I can't remember. But yeah, no, thank you for having me back again. It's always great coming on the channel. And yeah, if you want to follow me, it's at Joseph THFC. Talk obviously about Spurs, talk about Juve. I'm a big Juventus fan, and also about the Serie A, and also about American sports. I'm a massive fan of NFL, NBA, and stuff like that. So please, if you want to talk about any of that, come follow me and get my insight. I'm also a regular or co-host of Project Spurs. So please come and follow that as well. But yeah, again, thank you for having me, Harry, and hope to be back. So I think I'm back actually next Thursday. So
yes, you are.
Exciting for that. Hopefully, I'm not expecting any result from the two games in between, but hopefully we could have something. I mean, I can't remember the last time I was on a podcast where things were good, where we won a game. I don't remember it. So
nor do I.
It's a hard time at the moment for Spurs fans, but we got to hope something can happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I say the same thing as host every time. Defeat. Carbon copy, or poor performance every time. But Joseph, thank you very much. I think you're right. You come on once, I believe, in the January window. I think it was either at the start or end of the window. So you are right with that. I think you did make that appearance there. Joseph, thank you. And Dustin, thank you very much for getting up early or staying up. Please share with us which one of those you did do. But thank you very much for your time. Where can people follow you and your fantastic analysis and deep dive analysis, I should say, on the socials?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at the account that's on the screen over here. And then I've got a YouTube series as well. The next one is going to be how to build a stable club, where I actually go into director of football, what stable clubs are like, how they build it such that you have a dynasty where you can change the manager and it doesn't affect your club. One unifying call I want to give is that right now I see a lot of people arguing with each other, calling each other, you're an ancestral, I can't take what you say seriously, or you like Frank, so your opinion doesn't count. I think what all the managers have in common is that the board let them down by not building a proper squad. and there are many things above the manager's pay grade that are the cause of our problems. So you may disagree about the manager, but we're all Spurs fans. We should unite against the thing that changes the most, which is getting a proper director of football structure, getting the signings, the scouting, the football, the sporting director fixed. Because arguing the manager is shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. You got to fix the structure above the manager, because that's where all the problems lie.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And if you're talking about Tottenham in terms of your video, you might need to put a day or two aside to talk about the problems and what needs to change at the football club. Let me tell you that. But thank you to everyone. I believe it's been a very good episode. We've covered a lot. So thank you very much. But like I said, I do want to hear from you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you supporting the channel and the podcast, the channel as a whole. So it's the podcast and all the videos and shorts included. Had an incredible month in February. And when I say incredible, it beat Last Word on Spurs. It beat, Ben Bowman. We'll talk about, prominent creator there in Ben Bowman, and a fantastic channel. They've been going for many, many years, long before I was born, in Last Word on Spurs. So thank you very much for the continued support. Definitely heading in the upward direction, and one of the quickest still growing fan channels, and also the quickest growing Tottenham podcast, certainly up there in the top 10. So thank you very, very much as always. Do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For now, a massive come on you, Spurs.